There's an old saying, still waters run deep. She's a perfect example of what that means. Outward appearances, she's got it all going on. Things look great. She made major changes in her life. Not because anything is bad, because it wasn't what she wanted. And she's coming here to tell us all about it on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. In the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, we are joined by special guests talking about their experiences, the realities of investigating crimes, plus those who have experienced horrendous trauma. Police, first responders, military, and victims of crime share their stories. Hi, I'm John J. Wiley. In addition to being a broadcaster, I'm also a retired police sergeant. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com, and also like us on Facebook. Search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. The Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show is brought to you in part by the Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse drop-in social audio chat app. The app is free. Download today. Look for Clubhouse and be sure to follow and join us in Breakfast with Champions, holding rooms every day of the week. You'll find friends from all over the globe. Motivation, education, inspiration, where everyone gets to see the table. That's the Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse drop-in social audio app. Both are free. Download the app today. Get more details at thebwcinfo.com. Contact us from Chicago. We have Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and I've known Julie a long time. I met her in real life, which we'll talk about in a few moments, but I met her on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Julie, thanks for being a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Very much appreciated.
It has been a long time coming. I am so excited to be here, John.
It has been a long time, and we'll talk about why in a moment. And I'll give you a little setup. We have a lot of really tough conversations on this show. We have, obviously, investigating crimes, but we also, about 80% of our guests are people that have been through tremendous trauma, often crime-based, but not always. They talk about the impact, how they built their lives afterwards. And Julie kept saying, I don't have a big trauma story. No, right. She doesn't. That's okay. Not everybody does. But what's the old saying that I say, Julie, it's the last half of your life that really matters in this race we call life, not the first half. You don't even have a lot of input on your first half, do you?
Absolutely not. We are really designed by our mother, father, teacher, preacher, and it's not until we understand who we are as human beings that we start navigating our truest path. Right, right. Now,
Julie's happily married. She has 4 sons. One is in college, University of Alabama. Am I correct?
That's correct, John.
And she's divorced, which we'll talk about in a few moments. She was a lawyer. She doesn't practice anymore. We'll talk about that, the reasons why. And she is, and I'm going to butcher this, she's a publicist. You say you are a facilitator of dreams. Is that what the term you use?
That's right. I facilitate dreams. Everybody has a dream, and I understand the power of dreaming. I dreamt for the first 40 years of my life, and I understand the power when there's someone else out there that understands your dreams, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you are wanting to do something bigger or better, write a book, start a podcast. It takes a village to do these things and
sure does.
Actualize your dreams.
And by the way, we'll talk a little bit about this later on. Julie's clients, and they're numerous, she helps them get books published. She helps them get on podcasts. She helps them get on radio shows. As a matter of fact, she's got a connection with Daily Mail, which we are talking about. You know how big Daily Mail is? Check it out. She's had guests. One of her clients was on Investigation Discovery Channel. So, and by the way, here's the thing that I would love for people to remember, meaning myself. You could be in a grocery line, check out, and be standing next to Julie Lokun or someone like her and not even know. And make a false, here's what I do all the time, Julie, and I'm going to ask you as a question. Make a false image of what you think they're like based off their outward appearances. Because if you look at Julie, you'd say, man, she's got it going on.
Right, and we do that. That is part of human nature, to make assumptions based on how we present ourselves. And it's true, we need to be powerful in how we conduct our lives and navigate the last half of our lives, or even the first half.
Right. And I'm not saying that she doesn't have it going on. She's got a great life. And she'll be the first one to tell you. And this is not a woe is me. So this is really about how we can be the master of our own destiny. I know it's an overused term, a phrase a lot of people use. But no matter what predicament you're in, in life, you can make changes. You can follow your dreams. And Julie's a perfect example. Before we get into that, I met Julie on the Clubhouse Drop-In audio chat app about 3 years ago now, is it? Almost 4?
Yeah, for sure.
I met Julie in person at Creative Con. That is, our website is creativecon.com. That's with the number 8 instead of an A, Creative Con. And that was in the Chicago area. And they have another one coming up close to the Miracle Mile. I believe that's in February. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. It's actually the Magnificent Mile, but I'll take the Miracle Mile.
Oh, Magnificent, Miracle, either one.
Yeah. It's going to be a miracle and magnificent.
And we'll tell you why you should make plans to attend. And believe me, my eyes got wide open after attending the first one, and I plan on going to the second one. And I also do rooms almost every morning with Julie Lokun, Julie Drost Lokun, in the Clubhouse Drop-In audio chat in rooms called Breakfast with Champions. Check it out. It's free, thebwcinfo.com. And I met Julie's parents, both wonderful people. They've got nothing horrible to say.
Oh my gosh.
There's no big red flags like, oh my God, they came from there's none of that. And Julie always said, I don't have a big horror story to tell people. I didn't overcome tremendous things.
My biggest enemy has been myself, John. My biggest enemy has been myself. I don't want to say self-limiting beliefs, but it has been myself telling myself that, okay, I'm not good enough or I'm too much and my light is too big and I have these bodacious dreams and nobody around me really understood it, but it is finding those people around you that do understand those bodacious dreams.
And it's okay. It's okay to have big dreams. The one thing I can't stand, this maybe because I'm getting a lot older, and Julie laughs about this a lot when we talk,
old.
Is having big dreams is great, but not having any ambition to do something about them to achieve those dreams is the place where a lot of us fall down. And a lot of us say, I'll do it later. And later never comes.
Yeah, taking action, right, John? If you don't take action, nothing happens. You can have all the dreams in the world and manifest it and just pray about it. But if you're not taking action in alignment with who you are and where you want to go, nothing happens.
Right. Nothing happens. So let's talk. And by the way, Julie's dad, I can't remember his first name. What's his first name?
We'll call him George. George Drost.
George Drost. He is the son of, is it Czechoslovakian immigrants?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And his parents were involved in the World War II atrocities, and he has a great story about that. And when you meet this guy, you go, wow. Imagine coming to a different country when you're like 5 years of age and starting all over. My grandparents did that when they were 16. They came from Ireland. At least they spoke the same language, but they had no guarantees. They were on a boat with the money in their pocket and a suitcase, and they just both turned 16. I won't even go on vacation unless I know we're staying.
Right. No, it's an incredible story. The book is called The Quiet Hero, and my father did come over, and he was told to assimilate and by no means give any clue that you are from Eastern Europe. You are American. And he lost that in the whole story of his life and became consulate general to the Czech Republic, now called the Czech Republic. It is about following your dreams. And I learned so much about them. And I love the immigrant spirit because immigrants who come over here, they understand the power of being in the United States and the power of freedom. And he never took that for granted.
Right. I agree. And by the way, I saw an interview very quickly, and we don't do politics here. Dana White from UFC said, this is the best country in the world. And you know who appreciates it more than anybody else? Immigrants. People that came here legally, that immigrated legally, they appreciate it. People that are born here, they wallow, they whine, they complain. When we return to our conversation with Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, you're going to learn about ambition. You're going to learn about making the big changes. And while it may not seem big on the outward, South Sides is big on the inside. You can find us on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page. This is the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Remember when news was free? Be sure to check out the Newsbreak app. It's free. And be sure to follow the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast on the Newsbreak app. Newsbreak is your #1 local news app for current events, free live news for you and your community. Download the Newsbreak app today for free. And be sure to follow the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast on the Newsbreak app. That's the free Newsbreak app. Be sure to look for and follow the Law Enforcement Talk radio show and podcast.
Breakfast with Champions is the tool I use in the morning to get myself ready to face the world. The conversations are motivating and inspiring, and I can face the world with a positive attitude. So join us in the Breakfast with Champions rooms. Download the Clubhouse app today for free and join us soon. Online at www.thebwcinfo.com.
Return our conversation with Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk radio show. Julie is a good friend that I always say this jokingly. She's like the friend who lives across the street that you want to hang out with.
Yeah, well, give a little context to that one.
Yeah. I have another friend, Carrie Brett, who's in Boston, and she's second generation Irish American, and we have a lot in common. I always say she's like the sister from another mister, and Julie said, well, what am I? I said, you're like the friend across the street you want to hang out with. She's like, oh my God, it's horrible. It really
I'm
is.
the friend across the street, everybody. The friend across the street.
That you want to hang out with.
Well,
Julie,
he didn't say that the first time.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good now. I'm enjoying this now.
Julie is one of the founders of Creative Con. Their website is creativecon.com. That's with a number 8 instead of A. So creativecon.com, and she's one of the hosts of Murder and Morton Grove new podcast. She has other ones as well. Media Casters is what she's all about. We want to talk a little about your story. You are a lawyer. You don't practice anymore. I know there's a big reason you want to say that, but you got to give credit where credit's due. But you're on your second marriage, and is it fair to say that life didn't turn out like you thought it was going to when you're 18?
Correct, John. It actually turned out way more colorful, way more enriching. And the truth is that I think just because we were talking about my background being a firstborn American, my father was born in the Czech Republic, I have the ambition. I understand what it's like to live with an immigrant father who reaps the riches of living in the United States, meaning he understood the possibilities here. So I sat at his feet. I watched him build a huge law firm here outside of Chicago. And I said to myself, I should become a lawyer. Both my grandfathers were lawyers. And my grandfather from Czech Republic, he was a lawyer in Czech Republic, came to the United States and trained himself, went to law school again in his second language, received a JD, and then my father became a lawyer. So I thought, well, I should go to school and become a lawyer. I'll be the first female lawyer in the family. Halfway through, I understood that while I have an amazing opportunity and the possibility to educate myself on a huge level, it wasn't really fitting within who I truly was as a human being. So that's kind of where the detour went. Pretty much right after I graduated from law school, I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew I was a creative, but I didn't have the words for it at the time. If you think about 20 years ago, no one knew what the word creative meant or a creative entrepreneur was. So it's been a long time coming, but every experience has enriched my life 1,000%.
When I hear the terms creative entrepreneur or influencer, and I know you didn't mention that one, I kind of get a little sick to my stomach feeling because it's used so much that these people are like, well, I'm an influencer. I'm a content creator. What do you do for a living? Oh, by the way, I'm a trash. I haul trash. And there's nothing wrong with hauling trash. You should be proud of that.
You are an influencer. You're a content creator. We do this every day. And it's necessary. Yeah, it's necessary in today's digital world, whether we are trash collectors, hairstylists, law enforcement officers, stay-at-home moms, we are influencing somebody, but it's kind of understanding how and who you want to influence. I don't consider myself an influencer in the way some people do with 100 million followers. I influence more as a micro influencer because I have the tools people need. And it's so enriching to be able to exercise my creativity every single day.
See, this is where Julie and I disagree quite a bit. And I know, unlike most of my guests, I know her personally. I think she can be a big-time influencer, but she considers herself, and her role is a micro-influencer. But you were in law school, and you said about halfway through law school, you decided this wasn't for you. And people say, what are the two occupations other than being a celebrity or a professional athlete that pay the most in the United States of America are doctors and lawyers. On the outside, man, getting that law degree, getting your JD, passing the bar, all that stuff is phenomenal, isn't it? Who would want that?
It's huge. And I should have recognized when I was going through my criminal law exam, my final exam, and I went into labor with my second son. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is not exactly for me. But the money is alluring, right? The money, the steady money is alluring as an attorney, as a doctor, as someone who has a professional job. But I was not made to fit in a box. I was not made to be the 9-to-5er or, spending 80 hours a week in a law office. I was really meant to exercise my creativity and use my brain and be a visionary, which I know might sound really woo-woo, but I know someone listening right now understands what I'm saying.
Look, it doesn't sound woo-woo to me. And you know my story about how do you have that conversation with your parents and say, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a creative influencer.
Right. Well, my dad, let me be honest, my dad was over the moon. He would come over to my house. We would study for finals. When I walked across the stage at graduation, he gave me my diploma because he was adjunct professor at John Marshall UIC at the time. And beaming pride in his eyes was everything. I was carrying the baton from generation to generation. And when I told him that I didn't want to do this, he actually took a pause and said, okay, I'm going to support you.
He's a better man than me.
He really hasn't. He didn't really understand until my Creative Con this past year and doing all the things. He really didn't understand my vision, but he does now. But he never said, oh, gosh, you're so stupid for doing this. I have super supportive parents that I'm very blessed, and I recognize that. And
your mom, when you told her, how did she react?
Oh, she's fine. She loves anything I do. She always told me I was the best writer since I was 2 years old and could pick up a crayon and write a book. So
my mother sends me texts. She goes, I'm the cranky mom.
Your mom says you're the cranky.
She sent me a text that goes, yeah, your daughter's cranky and I'm the cranky mom.
The cranky mom. It's making sense now to me.
I remember when I was in high school, I went to a seminary and I really thought I had the calling and the vocation to become a Catholic priest. And that was something I really, really strived for. And right around beginning of senior year, I realized that was not for me. It's a long story, but my dad, who was alive then, was in the United States Navy, and he was in land duty, so we saw him a lot. And my mom, and I sat them down and said, the priesthood's not for me. They're like, oh, we spent all this money on this school. Okay, if you're not going to be a priest, we're going to be. I went, I want to be a cop. They went, They almost had like heart attacks.
So, but the thing is, being a priest, you have to accept chastity as part of your lifestyle.
Right.
I'm guessing
the big thing was celibacy.
A little bit too much.
A little bit. Let's just say nowadays not so much, but back then, yeah.
You're like, I like the ladies a little too much. But isn't that every Catholic mom's dream to have a priest as a son?
I don't know. I'm not a Catholic mom. I couldn't tell you. I'm a Catholic dad, and I'm just so glad my daughters aren't police. That's all I can tell you.
Right, and I mean that's the power and the tapestry of your story. Like, who would have thought you would have gone to priest to police officer to radio
I know.
Radio gold.
It's an amazing story. And speaking of amazing stories, if I can do this, you can do this. If Julie can do what she has done, you can do it too. And she's going to tell you more about that in a few moments. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Return our conversation with Julie Drost Lokun in a few moments. Her podcast was Get Obsessed. Murder in Morton Grove is the new one. And I can't wait for that one. And her website, you got to check out, is creativecon.com. That's with the number 8 instead of A, creativecon.com. This is Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
First thing in the morning on my phone, I join the Breakfast with Champions morning show in the Clubhouse social audio app. Both are free. I can grab my coffee, no makeup, no hair to do, and connect with people live from all across the world to jumpstart my day. Join us in the Breakfast with Champions rooms in the Clubhouse social audio app.
Online at www.thebwcinfo.com.
One of the questions I get all the time, why are you always promoting the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show Facebook page? Well, because there's no better place on Facebook. That's it. It's simple. Everything about the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and podcast is right there, including great photos, stories you'll want to see, you'll want to share, memorials to law enforcement officers who were killed in the line of duty, all that and more. Plus, old episodes of the show can be found on our Facebook page. Just do a search for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show on Facebook and be sure to click like and or follow. We'll see you there. Return conversation with Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. She is from Chicago area, and her podcast, she has numerous podcasts. One is Get Obsessed. The other one is brand new. I'm very excited about it. It's called Murder in Morton Grove, based off a true murder. And you can get more details about her events at creativecon.com. That's creativecon.com with the number 8 instead of an A. Julie, we talked earlier that we look at you from the outside, we see the picture perfect life. And without knowing, we judge things. I don't mean that it's a negative. We all do it. And you had a lot of good things going on, and you've got a lot of great things going on now. You got a great marriage, great relationship with your kids, great business that you do. You're active in Clubhouse. You do a lot of things. We do a lot of work together. But your life didn't start there. We talked about being in law school and how you decided you didn't want to be a lawyer. And you were married, and you said earlier you're taking your criminal law exam and you're pregnant with your second child at the time. But that marriage ended, didn't it?
Which is funny. He's at the University of Alabama getting a criminal justice degree. That's actually crazy? Weird. I never thought of that.
It is crazy. And by the way, that is Sam, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Sam's an interesting guy. One day we'll have him on the show.
Gosh, so love that or not love that.
You had to tell your first husband that for whatever reason that this was not the direction you wanted to go in. Law school, you're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a lawyer, and I don't want to be married to you anymore. And I know that sounds harsh saying it that way, but that was a reality, wasn't it?
It was a reality, and we had conversations. I mean, I married young, and my ex-husband, he is probably the nicest guy you could ever meet, and he would be there for me now if I really needed him to be there for me. And we talk all the time, him and my current husband, my only husband, the love of my life. They hang out together. They go to the shooting range, which makes me nervous, by the way. I'm like, why are you guys going to the shooting
Your husband and ex-husband both have guns. Oh, they're standing next to each other.
Always like this. Yeah. I mean, I can't, but I've seen people make perceptions of me that, oh my gosh, she has the perfect life. She's got a handsome husband, beautiful children, a business, a nice house, 2 very loud French bulldogs, but we're all going through something behind the scenes, and it's just about sharing your stories. Storytelling to me is so important, and I don't like to hide anything in terms of just the struggles I've been through, because if one person hears this and understands that they're not living their full life with their partner, with their job, career, life is way too short to be doing something you don't love doing, or being with someone that you know is not your person.
And back when you got divorced the first time, I say first.
Only
it's
one
once.
time, by the way, John. One time.
We didn't have these kind of conversations 20 years ago. We just didn't. But even back then, it wasn't that horribly long ago. It wasn't commonplace with normal Americans. That was something that celebrities did.
Yeah, it was horrible. John, I was the first one on both sides of my family ever to get divorced. Ever in the history of both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side. I carried so much shame and guilt for quite a long time. I still have threads of shame and guilt, but I know I made the right decision. I also recognized that it was a pivotal time in my 30s where I was finding myself out, and I recognized I could not live a half-lived life. It just is impossible, for me at least. And I do see a lot of friends. I lost so many friends in the neighborhood. I was maybe, I don't want to say the pariah, but I was like, ooh, she's the one that got divorced. Fast forward 10 or 15 years, half of these people are divorced or miserable, and it's about judgment and perception. And I know I made the right decision 1,000%.
But it wasn't easy to make that decision, and it wasn't easy to tell that person, I'm sure.
No, it was not easy. People want an easy fix in their lives. They think, oh my gosh, let me just get divorced and do this. What I know is I've worked with a lot of people going through divorce. It's the hardest thing you can ever go through, right, John?
Mine almost killed me. It was the worst experience I've ever been through.
I never want to go through that again. Yeah, I mean,
and I have two daughters from the first marriage, and they're the best things that ever happened to me. They're right up there with my wife, Stephanie, the boss, I call her. And
hey, boss, Stephanie,
she's
amazing.
A phenomenal person, and she gets me. She understands. And then I come with some unique challenges, and I'll just say that right now. And here's probably why Julie and I get along so well, is because we accept each other the way that we are. It's not like trying to say... And we don't agree on everything. Absolutely not.
No,
and
that's for sure.
I think the other day, Julie said something about somebody else was talking in Clubhouse and said, oh, I want to be like John. He's so wise and so patient. And both of us started howling laughing.
I'm like, have you met John Wiley? Yeah. And John, you are working. We are all works in progress. That's right. The beauty of it. I have so many flaws. It's not even funny.
You should see me 20 years ago. Oh, my God.
20 years ago?
Yeah.
John is wise. He's smart. He's a great orator. He is someone that I look up to as a mentor. But patience, I'm not sure
that's not one of my strong suits. It really is not.
But you're working on it.
I think that when they said they're handing out patience in the line, I went to the wrong line and got the wrong thing. I got a lot of anger. I got a lot of tenacity. I got a lot of other stuff.
Right.
But
the Irish side.
None of that patience. Yeah. Earlier, you said something that really kind of rung a bell with me. You said you still carry little threads of that shame.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you feel like you let people down on your marriage, or was it a marriage in law school? Was it everything combined? What was it? Or is it just being you?
Well, it is being me. I mean, I feel shame for the stress I put my family through, just exploding a relationship that I had built and had included my family in. That's shameful, number one. And they, by no means, they have accepted everything I do, because that's I have an awesome family, by the way. They never said, oh, why did you do this? But I know that I was bucking the norm in my family structure. And I knew, too, that I was a good person, that everybody around me were good people, but we had to rethink how we did this thing called family. And by gosh, we did. And I got to tell you, there's nothing better than having a Christmas dinner and having everyone together and just knowing that we are family, even though it's weird and odd and it's maybe Demi and Bruce Willis-ish, but it's so good for the kids, because this is more the norm now today. Divorce and co-parenting and uncoupling, it's more the norm today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I think that I don't know about resilience, but it certainly adds a different host of experiences to the mix. And we're of a certain age, and this is another inside joke. Well, we watched a television show that was about two blended families coming together called the Brady Bunch when we were kids. Remember that?
Oh, that is like really old.
And back then, I'm of a certain age where I could freely talk about that. Julie is a lot younger than me.
You actually watched the Brady Bunch. I want to know this for sure. You did?
But we didn't.
Goodness.
See, back then, there was that. There was also Eddie, the courtship of Eddie's father. That was a different non-nuclear family thing. I can't remember. Then you had the one about My Three Sons, which is another one that was non-nuclear family. And there was another one I can't remember had Buffy and another guy and... I can't remember any of that one, but we got exposed because it was so unusual to have blended families or non-nuclear families. You just weren't used to it. It was a Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
And now you do that every day.
Yeah. It's so more normal. And I'm so lucky because I have my two older sons with my first husband, my ex-husband, then I have two younger with my only husband. And the truth is that I know if I were taken out of the picture, my four boys would be raised together for the rest
That's the mission of all parents.
Lives.
We're talking with Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. When we return, we're going to talk about her new podcast, Murder in Morton Grove, Creative Con, and really moves her and inspires her. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and be sure to click like. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you want to be a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, simply contact us. It couldn't be easier. You can send us a message on Facebook. Look for and like the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show page, or email jay@letradio.com. That's JAY@letradio.com. And if you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, Wiley. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, Wiley, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Turn conversation with Julie Drost Lokun on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Julie is a friend from Clubhouse social drop-in audio chat app, which, by the way, is free. You can find us in rooms together, breakfast with champions almost every day of the week. So that is also free. Check it out as well. And she's in Chicago. She has two podcasts, Get Obsessed, which has been around a long time. And she's got a brand new one I'm really excited we're going to talk about, Murder in Morton Grove, where she's the co-host. And her website for a big event coming up Chicago is Creative Con. Website is creativecon.com. That's the number 8 instead of an 8, creativecon.com. I plan on being there. I want to talk a little bit to... You made this, we're going to jump forward a lot. You went through some things that you finished law school, you decided I want to be a lawyer. You got divorced with 2 kids, and you went through all that. You built the life you want. And then you do what we call creative influencing. You call yourself a micro-influencer, that's fine. But you decided you're going to launch this podcast called Murder in Morton Grove. Morton Grove is in the suburbs of Chicago, am I wrong?
Yeah, you're correct.
And what actually took place, a murder took place?
Okay, so the murder took place in Morton Grove in 1979. And the truth is, I want to backtrack. And you said we're friends from Clubhouse. I believe we're friends in real life, IRL.
Yeah, we are.
And murder in Morton Grove. So I have a background in journalism and law, and I have always been fascinated by those podcasts like Crime Junkies, Audio Chuck, anything Audio Chuck, anything true crime. And I think women particularly are the biggest audience for true crime, just junkies, if you will. And I met this lady, her name is Stacy Nye, at Creative Con last year, and we were just talking, and I said, I've always wanted to do a true crime podcast. And she's like, me too. And then she said to me, Julie, 2 of my classmates were murdered in high school in senior year, the first day of our senior year in high school. And I just knew we had to tell the story because it's so important to keep these stories out in the public. And it has been a whirlwind of a lot of information and trying to pull together these pieces of the puzzle. I know we are one person away from solving the crime. John may disagree.
Yes,
We've had a lot of, let's say, little bumps in the road with the police officers, that sort of thing. But I met the two girls, Susie Ovington and Yvonne Bender's parents' family, and I want to do it for their family. It's so important to me that these girls are brought justice.
Well, I think that what you can do, and by the way, this is Murder Morton Grove is the name of the show. Right now you have what they call a trailer out or introduction, and these murders are unsolved.
Correct.
That does not mean, as a police officer, and Julie should know this from her law school time, that you don't know who did it. The problem is you need this pesky thing. I always say it. It's pesky. You need this thing called probable cause, which is evidence. Not enough evidence to convict in court, but more than a reasonable suspicion.
Right.
So what I'm hoping is your podcast will spark the memory of someone. Yeah. And I watched a documentary about Lacey Peterson, the murder of Lacey Peterson.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
While they had suspected that Scott, her husband, was responsible for a long time, they couldn't get, and until Amber Fry said, yeah, I dated, and then she wore a wire and they got a little more information, they're able to charge him. See, that's what I'm hoping you'll get from that, is someone that, oh yeah, I should talk about this, I should tell somebody. And that should be the one connecting piece.
Right. And the circumstances of their deaths are very sad, but incredible. And it's incredible that there hasn't been an arrest. There has never been an arrest made. These two young girls, 17 years old, went to the shopping mall and went to the local forest preserve. A forest preserve, Morton Grove, there is relatively little or no crime in Morton Grove at that time. And to this day, they were shot in the middle of the afternoon in a forest preserve in cold blood, in daylight. And I believe the police were not equipped at the time to handle a
Why would you say that?
Murder investigation. Well, it's true.
Why would you say that, though? You say it's true. It's your perspective that is truth. Why do you think that?
The crime scene wasn't properly handled.
According to who?
I have this two firsthand accounts.
According to who?
According to firsthand accounts where they didn't tape anything off. They let people roam around. It was just hodgepodge.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything against.
We had that all the time.
And I'm not saying anything against.
Here's where my big objection is going to be. Yeah. It is easy to, and by the way, the police are an easy target. They're a very easy target because if they get an arrest, they'll say, "Oh, you just picked on him because he's a boyfriend." If they don't get an arrest, you didn't do your job. If you didn't seek outside help, like the FBI, which they don't investigate homicides.
Well,
it is not their purview. And when they do get involved, they rely on the local investigators. So it's a no-win situation. And here's the caveat. They're not allowed to tell you about it.
Yeah.
As long as it's open, they're not. And even the closed cases that have successful prosecutions, they're quite often not allowed to discuss the details because of all the legal things that can occur.
Right. And we have talked to a lot of sources that I can't mention right now, but we have talked to a lot of sources. I'd love to go deeper into it, but I'm not sure legally if I can.
Right.
But the truth is that they were a small town. They did not have the ability to handle a case like.
And you say that, yet we've had plenty of small towns where they solve big murders, serial killers. As a matter of fact, Lake City, Florida, arrested this guy named Ted Bundy. Lake City, Florida is not a big city.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was on the run, and he was nefarious. If you catch Ted Bundy, you're gold.
Where can people?
Get a gold star.
And by the way, lots of people fell in love with Ted and wrote him love letters.
Handsome devil.
According to who?
Handsome devil.
For me, he wasn't.
What's that, John?
To me, he wasn't handsome. He's not my type.
Who?
Ted Bundy? Yeah.
Oh, well, everybody, I mean, he was charismatic, and he traveled around. He was charismatic. He was trained as an attorney. He was well-spoken. He was like the least suspect, like he would not be on your radar if you met him.
And most successful serial killers, they do everything to blend in, not to attract attention.
Right? Yeah.
I want to focus on where people can find more details about you, because you got a lot. You've got, let's talk about Murder in Morton Grove. Where can people find it? You got a website for that, don't you?
We sure do. It's www.murderinmortongrove.com, MORTON Grove, GROVE.com. And you can go through the source files. We are looking for tips. Anybody that has some connection or an idea about what's going on, because we are sifting through all the files, and we're open to all different perspectives at this time.
Awesome.
We want truth and justice.
And then secondly, let's talk about, you've got MediaCasters. You got a website for that as well?
Yes. You can go to themediacasters.com. It's because we cast media. Everything I'd love to do is about casting voices, building voices, and getting your voice heard and seen. So themediacasters.com. I love being a creator, John, and I know you're a creator, so you get me. Who would think this little girl who graduated Indiana University from journalism and flew overseas and did all these things and changed her life would be doing murder investigations on podcasts, writing books, helping people, like from investigation discovery and talking to these people? This is where I find my flow zone. And I know everybody here can get to this point. It's about making that choice.
If you can dream it, you can make it happen. That's the thing, but it takes a lot of work. And that's one thing Julie and I agree on quite often in Clubhouse. Otherwise, we can talk a big game, but if you're not putting your feet to the floor and doing the work, you're not going to get too far. And lastly is Creative Con. That's creative with the number 8. CreativeCon.com is the website. Tell us quickly, got about 30 seconds left, what Creative Con is.
Well, John J. Wiley is going to be there, number 1, and it's for creative entrepreneurs, people who are looking to expand their brand, build their creative presence, not just on social media, but podcasting, publishing, speaking on stages, and ultimately getting the public relations and media they need to build their business and story.
And it's CreativeCon.com. Check it out, number 8 instead of A. And lastly, Julie's getting new teeth from a dentist next week.
Oh, gosh, almighty. We've got to talk about this.
I'm working on a deal with a Boston area dentist to get new teeth as well. And I'll tell you all about the journey as we go along. Julie, thanks for sharing your story.
Not hiding these teeth anymore, John. We're not hiding our teeth anymore.
Thanks for being a guest on the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, John.
This was a podcast version of the nationally syndicated Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, and we are so glad that you decided to join us. Big thanks to our guests for telling their story on the show. 2 simple things you can do. Be sure to check out our website, letradio.com. That's letradio.com. And be sure to follow us or like us on Facebook. Do a search on Facebook for Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show. And be sure when you see a post that we put up that you like, that you resonate with, that gets your attention, be sure to share it with your friends. We'll be back in just a few days with another great episode of the show. See you then.